tremendous job loss that would be associated with passage of what's been proposed and going before the Senate. Specifically, the energy industry has been a strong base of support for Texas economic growth in recent years, and cap and trade, what it would do to nuclear, what it would do to oil and gas, what it would do with regard to clean coal, all of the elements that are key to a strong Texas energy policy would be adversely affected. Our refineries would be adversely affected. You'd see a lot of jobs go offshore at a time when, quite frankly, we need to bring jobs home here to the U.S. and back to Texas. In addition, the cost to consumers, the cost to small businesses in terms of additional energy costs would be devastating at a time of a serious national recession. I think this is the most serious national recession we've seen since the time of the Great Depression. Texas is doing a lot better than the nation at large, but I'd hate to see us be brought down, and I think the focus ought to be instead on how do we get jobs back to Texas and the U.S. rather than get off on these diversionary areas which are job killers for Texas and the nation at large.
Well, obviously it's going to have an adverse impact across the country, but according to our comptroller, it would have a disproportionate adverse impact upon Texas. Obviously, it would reduce the economic activity in the state, reduce jobs, and lighten the pocketbooks of Texans. The comptroller said that we could see a family of 3 to 4 having their family income reduced somewhere between $1,300 and $1,600 per year. But think about two other aspects. Because we are the energy capital of the country, and this is an energy tax, it is going to have a significant impact upon us. It's going to have, think about the number of marginal wells that we have in this state. We're the #1 producer of oil and natural gas, but a large part of our production are marginal wells. That's going to increase the cost of keeping those marginal wells in production, hasten the day that you have to plug those wells. In addition to that, it's going to increase, obviously, just the general production cost here in Texas. And think about it as the refining capital of the country. It's going to increase, obviously, those costs as well. But one of the things I think most people don't think of when you think of this particular issue is the adverse impact it will have on agriculture. We're the 3rd largest agriculture exporting state in the country. And when you look at the costs, our Texas Cotton Gin Association said it would increase their permitting fees by $8.5 million per year. You will have some 3,800 Texas farms come under the regulation. About 840 of our cattle ranches, and about 640 of our dairies. So for a number of reasons, there would be significant adverse impact on Texas.
Well, as the largest producer of energy in the United States and largest consumer of energy in the United States, it'll have a huge impact on Texas. It, for one, will raise the cost of electricity across the board. For 2, it will raise the cost of a variety of other services. And for 3, it could cost significant job loss. So those are all negatives, but I say that in the context of believing that some reasonable and balanced, realistic carbon legislation should be passed. What concerns me about this bill is that the state of Texas is a huge oil and gas producer. Oil and gas is, in effect, an industry that is not just frowned upon, but is in many ways punished by this legislation. On the other hand, coal, which is obviously plentiful but much more dirty from an emission standpoint, seems to have negotiated their own benefits and allowances that are far in excess of the damage, or far in excess of a reasonable balance in terms of where they fit in the overall cost of things. So I believe that the impact on Texas will be in many ways negative because of the disfavored role that oil and gas is held in. That's unfortunately a failure as well to recognize the great benefit of natural gas as a clean hydrocarbon fuel that really is going to have to be a fuel of tremendous reliance over the next few years. And finally, I believe that this legislation does put a premium on building more renewable energy, and because Texas is as far along as it is, particularly in wind, that while there may be job loss from the higher cost of electricity as well as cost of doing business, there may be some job development that will be of consequence in Texas as we build out and lead the country in more renewable energy.
What I believe is that if the carbon legislation is designed to punish the oil and gas industry, Texas will be negatively impacted. If, on the other hand, the oil and gas industry are benefiting from free credits like other industries such as coal or heavy manufacturing, then I think we can manage across Texas in a way that will distribute the credits fairly and will benefit society across Texas equally. I do worry that there is a prejudice that we have to be concerned about because of the history of oil and gas in Texas and the concentration of that industry in this state. So we should be mindful, we should be careful, we should provide lots of input to our representatives to see to it that there is not a punishing approach to a particular industry in our state.
Well, my perspective includes that of the renewable energy industries, which are chiefly the wind industry now and the solar and the private communities. We in the renewables know that carbon legislation and the cost associated with carbon will push the price of energy up. And presumably, since there is not carbon in most renewable resources, that should be a benefit. But the countervailing situation in Texas is nobody imagines that wind power, solar power, any of the renewables that we have in abundance now can possibly displace the need for baseload generation. We've only got the three choices. We have the coal plants, the gas plants, and the nuclear plants. The nuclear plants do not have a carbon factor, and so presumably, all of the things being equal, anything that happens on carbon would favor that option. But I would love to be able to say, oh, we can do it all with efficiency, conservation, and renewables. But that's not a real picture, especially in a heavily industrialized state like Texas. We need that baseload generation, and we can't make the proper choices until the ground rules are set. Sitting in this hot summer, I am more and more a believer that climate change means something. What it means and how to deal with it is a problem that I'm glad is not on my agenda. But it does have to be addressed so that we can make the decisions to go forward. It's going to be a cost to everyone in the country, and it's going to especially be a cost to Texas with its heavy reliance, industrial reliance, in other words, on fossil fuel. But it's a choice we have to make, but we cannot make any progress by delaying that choice.